First story. I allowed my stepson to bully my son and mock him when his father died. My ungrateful son abandoned us, inheriting my ex's house. Now I promised my stepson my ex's gaming setup for his birthday, and demanded my son give the whole setup and half of his inheritance, as it's my ex's stuff, and he earned nothing. He sulked, refused, and now sent lawyer notices. I'm losing my patience. AITA for calling my son selfish and immature, for refusing to forgive his stepbrother, and for not letting him come over to play games at his house. I 48F have a son D 20M from my first marriage. His father and I divorced when he was 7. It was a hard time for all of us, but I tried my best to make the transition smooth. I met my now husband a couple of years later, and we got married when D was 10. My husband had a son of his own, L 18M now, who was 8 at the time. I'll be honest, D and L didn't hit it off like I hoped. I know blending families is hard, but I truly believed over time they'd become close. I was so sure that if I just kept trying, they'd get there. Unfortunately, D has always been difficult, independent to a fault. He was always close to his dad, and when he went to his house, he acted like he had this other life he didn't want us to be part of. He was allowed to go to the store alone and hang out with friends after school, and had this big fancy gaming setup that L would come home crying about because he didn't have the same. I admit I mentioned to my ex-husband that maybe he could invite L over once or twice. I just thought it would be nice for them to bond. But of course, that blew up in my face. D got furious at me. He said I was forcing a relationship and trying to push L where he wasn't wanted. It's not like I tried to force L into his life every weekend. I just thought they could share things. They're only 2 years apart. Things started getting really ugly around the wedding. We wanted to include both boys in the ceremony, which I didn't think was a big ask. They were supposed to stand next to each other and smile for some pre-wedding photos, just basic stuff. But D refused. He said he didn't want to be posed next to someone I'm not related to. He actually walked off during one of the photo sessions, and L ended up in tears after D yelled at him for trying too hard. Then L bit D during the shoot. I'll admit, that wasn't okay, but kids fight. They were young. D was 10, and L was 8. But of course, D held on to that forever, like it was some unforgivable crime. I tried to explain that L was upset, and biting was a reaction from being rejected and hurt. But D didn't care. He never does when it comes to L. I spent years asking D to be nicer to L. I begged him to just treat him like a little brother, or at least not be so mean. L has always looked up to him, no matter how badly D treats him. He wanted to share games with him, sit near him, and be part of his world. But D just wouldn't. He rubbed every single privilege he had in L's face. Anytime he came home from his dad's, he'd start talking about the new tech he got, or how he played mature-rated games that L wasn't allowed to, or how cool his dad was for letting him skip homework sometimes. By the time they were 13 and 11, L tried again. I remember him asking me how he could get D to like him. He even got me to help him pick out snacks to bring to D's room. He wanted to talk about D's favorite games, and even rehearse things he could say to impress him. But D didn't care. He told me later he could see right through him, and that L only cared about the stuff. He just assumed L was faking it because he wanted to be invited to his dad's house. And I'll admit, L did bring that up. But that's normal. Of course he was curious. It hurt to watch D shut him down so coldly. Then when D's dad died when he was 16, that changed everything. I tried to be there for him. I really did. I told him I'd help him through it, but he completely shut me out. He only wanted his grandparents, who were never that involved before. They moved into the house and started taking over everything, and I wasn't even allowed to set foot inside. Meanwhile, L, who was trying to lighten the mood, made a dumb comment about how he'd finally get to play all the cool stuff now, and D blew up. Yes, it was a poorly timed joke. Yes, L shouldn't have said it. But he's always had a dumb sense of humor, and I told D that. He's just immature, not malicious. But D said it was the final straw. From then on, he refused to let L anywhere near the house or the games. And honestly, it's just stuff. Why can't he get over it? D turned 18 and moved into his dad's house, which was fully paid off. The gaming setup, the collectibles, all of it his. But instead of being grateful, he's just become colder. He won't even acknowledge L. Now, L got into a good college nearby. I thought it was a great opportunity. He's trying so hard, and he wants a bit of independence. He asked if maybe he could stay with D for a while, just until he settled into campus. I thought it was reasonable. D lives alone in a big house. But D just said, absolutely not, and shut it down on the spot. No discussion, just no. I told him he was being stubborn, and that he could have at least heard L out. He said, you can't pay me enough to live with him again. At this point, I was so frustrated. I told him he was doing absolutely nothing to repair the relationship, and he acted like he didn't care. He said he didn't need to. That he never wants to improve anything with L, and that he's not family or a friend. Those were his exact words. It crushed me. Then, without telling me, L reached out to D. He told him he was sorry for everything in the past, and just wanted to visit sometime. Maybe play games, maybe hang out. He even said he'd bring snacks and wouldn't stay long. Just wanted a chance. I honestly thought maybe finally D would show some maturity. But no. He told L no immediately. Didn't even pretend to think about it. Didn't ask what L wanted to talk about. Didn't acknowledge the apology. Just a flat, cold no. L came to me afterwards looking crushed. He's 18, still a kid in a lot of ways, and he was shaking while telling me he regretted reaching out because he felt stupid for hoping things could change. It infuriated me. I'm his mother too, maybe not biologically, but I've raised L since he was 8. I've seen every insecurity that boy has. I've seen every time he tried to get D's attention. I know his flaws, but he has always wanted a brother. So yes, I confronted D. I asked why he rejected his stepbrother like that when L was finally doing the adult thing and apologizing. D didn't care. Told me I pushed him into contacting L, which wasn't true. I didn't even know L was going to do it. D said he was tired of being pressured into a fake family dynamic. Excuse me. My husband and I have been married over a decade. At what point does he accept that things changed? I told D he should be ashamed. Not because he said no, but because he didn't even try. He didn't respect that L was attempting to fix things. I said the games were just games, nothing important, and he could have let L come over for an hour. He twisted that into me, minimizing his boundaries. No, I'm telling him to stop acting like a selfish child over a collection of consoles and controllers. He fired back, saying I never listened to him growing up. That I forced L on him. That I made decisions about his life out of guilt because I divorced his dad. It was ridiculous. I divorced his father because the marriage wasn't working. How is that connected to two boys not getting along? He has always tried to blame his resentment on anything except himself. And then he brought up things from years ago, like that old biting incident, or L teasing him about the games when his dad died. I told him those were isolated incidents, and that kids fight and say stupid things. He refuses to see L as anything other than the worst moment he remembers. He refuses to acknowledge he contributed to the tension too. He insists L tormented him. Over what? Wanting to hang out? Wanting to play games? Trying to fit in? Every time I remind him that L idolized him when they were little, D rolls his eyes. He refuses to acknowledge that L never had the life he did. D had 2 homes, 2 Christmases, 2 bedrooms, and 2 gaming setups. L had 1 bedroom and 2 parents who were struggling financially when he was little. Of course he was jealous sometimes. That doesn't make him a monster. But no matter how many times I point out that L just wanted a chance, D won't budge. He insists L uses apologies as manipulation, because he brought up my ex-husband's house so much as a kid. That's his smoking gun. An 11-year-old asking if he could visit a house with a better computer setup. The worst part is D now talks to me like I'm the problem. Like I'm the reason their relationship is broken. He told me he doesn't owe L anything, and that I need to accept they aren't brothers. I told him he sounds heartless. He said he's being realistic, and that I'm fantasizing about a family that doesn't exist. I'll admit, that comment hurt. I have worked so hard to create peace in this household, and he's always been the one who wouldn't meet me halfway. Not even 10%. He acts like L did nothing but bully him, which simply isn't true. Yes, L was immature. Yes, he got jealous. Yes, he said the wrong thing when D's dad died. I disciplined him for that, but D acted like it was a capital offense. Even now, when they're adults, L still tries. He's studying hard, he's going to college, and he wants a fresh start. I told D that L moving in temporarily could actually help them bond, and D said, or it could make me miserable again. Not happening. I tried to explain that he's older and should set an example, and he snapped and told me to stop treating him like a babysitter. When I told him I was ashamed of him rejecting L's apology, he told me that I should have been ashamed years ago for letting everything get this bad. I genuinely don't understand where this hostility comes from. I did everything I could for both boys. I made sure they had equal Christmas gifts, equal chores, and equal structure. But no matter what I say, D keeps acting like L is some lifelong enemy. He won't even say L's name half the time. Just calls him your stepson. I'm at a point where I don't know if D even sees me as family anymore. Whenever I bring up L, he cuts me off. Whenever I try to encourage reconciliation, he accuses me of taking sides. I'm not taking sides, I'm the only one trying to fix what he keeps breaking. And now, apparently, because I told him adults shouldn't hold grudges over childhood arguments, he's barely speaking to me. He told me he's done having conversations about L, and that I need to respect that boundary. Which is ridiculous, because he doesn't get to set a boundary about another member of the family. I still think I'm right. I still think he's being stubborn. I still think he's refusing to grow up and refusing to forgive things that weren't even that serious. So now I'm here because my husband thinks I should let it go and stop pushing. But I don't see why I have to give up on something just because D refuses to do the bare minimum as an older brother. AITA? Comments. Comment 1. YTA. This is textbook emotional manipulation disguised as being a peacemaker. You're not neutral. You actively ignored your son's boundaries from the moment you were married. D never asked for a stepbrother. You tried to make L his sibling through forced proximity and emotional guilt. That's not blending a family, it's coercion. Also, stop using L's immaturity as an excuse. At 8, sure. At 13, 16, or 18, not anymore. The comment L made after D's dad died was effing vile. You wrote it off as dumb humor. But I guarantee that was the moment your son emotionally cut off both of you. And frankly, I don't blame him. D isn't immature. He's setting boundaries, which you repeatedly disrespect. You're treating D's space, his grief space, like an Airbnb for your favorite son. Your husband backing off says everything. He knows you're overreaching. You want Reddit to validate your fantasy. But the truth is you picked a side a long time ago. And it wasn't D's. Comment 2. YTA. And it's actually wild how you don't hear yourself. You've spent years trying to turn two incompatible kids into brothers, just because it looked good in a family photo. It was never about what D wanted. You always pushed what you wanted and called it family. You say D had more than L. Okay. But emotionally, sounds like L got you. And D got guilt-tripped and gaslit every time he didn't fall in line with your little blended family dream. And the way you keep saying L tried and D wouldn't let it happen. It's like you expected D to just forget the times L bit him, mocked him about his dad dying, and tried to wedge himself into a private space. You don't like that D doesn't forgive easily, but forgiveness isn't a requirement. Especially when the person apologizing L clearly still wants something your son's things. Not just his time. His stuff. D sees through that, and he's choosing peace. You should be proud, but instead you're pissed. You've chosen L so hard it hurts to read. You didn't just lose D because of the past. You're losing him right now by pretending his pain doesn't matter. Comment 3. Holy SHT, lady. Why Tia hard? I'm a divorced dad with 2 kids, and I've had to do the blended family thing too. You don't get to pretend you're a victim here. You alienated your own son. Not just once, for years. You let some random 8-year-old your new husband brought along physically assault your kid biting. Really? And then brushed it off like it was kids being kids. That's your problem. Every time L acted like a little SHT, you covered for him. He's jealous. He's immature. He just wants to be close. Bullshit. What he wanted was access. Access to your son's life, your ex's stuff, and anything that made D feel special. Let's be real, you saw D's dad die and thought, great. Now we can make them bond because there's no more other house to interfere. But guess what? D remembers. He remembers every time you ignored his no. Every time L crossed a line, you asked him to forgive and forget. He owes L nothing. And the fact that you're still trying to sell access to your son's grief and privacy for the low cost of some snacks is honestly disgusting. He's not the immature one. You are. You lost your kid, and you're still asking the wrong damn questions. Update. Wow, I didn't expect my original post to blow up like it did. And I'm honestly shocked at how many people completely missed the point. I came here for perspective, not to be torn apart and told I've abandoned my son or enabled abuse. People are twisting what I said into something cruel, and I'm not going to sit back and let that narrative run wild without explaining what's actually happening. First of all, I didn't force D to do anything. I asked him as his mother to show compassion and maturity. That's not manipulation. That's parenting. And before anyone accuses me again of favoritism, I have supported both boys. I was the one who drove D back and forth to his dad's every week. I stayed up helping him with homework when his dad flaked on calls, and I put my own marriage on hold for 2 years to focus on him adjusting. If that's not involved parenting, I don't know what is. Since the original post, things have gotten worse. D told me he doesn't want me contacting him unless it's an emergency. He didn't just say no to L visiting, he completely cut us both off. He blocked L entirely. This happened right after a misunderstanding that everyone seems to be overreacting about. I had offered D a more generous rental deal. I asked if L could stay temporarily while starting college nearby just until dorms opened. I said we'd pay rent, utilities, and even extra if that helped. I even suggested setting boundaries like separate spaces, quiet hours, etc. D said, and I quote, "You couldn't pay me enough to have him under my roof." So I brought up something I never intended to say out loud. When D was 15 and L was 13, I told L in a private conversation that maybe someday, when they were both older, he might be able to play games on D's setup, or even inherit it if D grew out of it. It was supposed to be encouraging. A way to make him feel included when he was constantly left out. I never expected D to cling to that console like it was the last thing on earth. He's 20. He's living alone in a house he didn't earn left to him, yes, but still. It's a home full of hand-me-downs. Not just furniture, memories, support, privilege. He didn't buy that gaming setup. His father did. And yet he acts like it's some sacred treasure no one else is allowed to touch. When I reminded him what I'd told L years ago, D got furious. Said I lied to a kid to control me later. That's just paranoid. It was never about control. It was about fairness. D had more growing up, more money, more opportunities, more freedom. So yes, I think it's fair that L gets to enjoy some of that now. Especially with D living alone in a 3-bedroom house, playing games all night while L is trying to juggle classes and shared housing. I also brought up the emotional toll all of this has taken on L. He's been in therapy since high school, something my husband and I arranged because of how excluded he felt in the home. He constantly asked why D hated him, why D never invited him anywhere, and why he was treated like an outsider in his own family. That weighs on a kid. Now, after years of silence and finally building up the courage to reach out, D slams the door in his face. Again. So yes, I told D that his refusal to let L come over not even for a visit was selfish. I told him that real men step up when their family needs them. Not everything is about trauma and boundaries. Sometimes you suck it up and show up. He hung up on me mid-sentence. And apparently, he's told his grandparents I'm not allowed to negotiate anything regarding the house again. They sent me a very firm message about respecting D's wishes, and that if I push this again, they'll cut contact. So now they're siding with him too, like I've done something unforgivable for wanting both my sons to succeed. And yes, I did send someone to D's house, a family therapist. L's therapist, actually. I didn't send her to force anything, just to offer a conversation. I thought maybe if D heard things from a professional, it would land differently. But no. He told her to leave immediately, said he never consented to anything, and then called me ranting that I'd violated his privacy. I tried to explain it was meant to help. He told me it was the last straw. I also admit I dropped off a small box at his porch. It wasn't anything invasive. Just a few things. A snack pack L wanted to share, a note, and an old controller that used to be D's, but he never took from my house after moving out. He hasn't said anything about it. My husband. Well, he's tired. He hasn't picked sides publicly, but I know he's frustrated. He told me I need to accept that D made up his mind. That pushing will only make him retreat further. But how do you let your own child treat his family like strangers? How do you sit back while he acts like his stepbrother doesn't exist? People in the comments keep saying D doesn't owe L anything. That it's his stuff, his house, his rules. But let's be real. Nothing D has was built on his own. He inherited everything. And I don't care how mad people get when I say this. If L had been the one to lose a parent, I would have expected D to step up. Because that's what family does. The more I read the comments from my last post, the angrier I got. People saying I chose one son. People acting like I'm some villain for trying to create a functioning family. I won't apologize for that. I won't apologize for wanting fairness. L has always been left behind, and now that I'm asking for the tiniest amount of inclusion, D slams the door and Reddit claps. Maybe I didn't handle everything perfectly. Maybe I said too much. But I'm still right about one thing. Family is about sharing, forgiving, and showing up. Not hoarding grief and consoles in a dead man's house. Say what you want. I know I've done what I could. Comments. Comment 1. You're a master manipulator dressed up as a grieving mum. This entire update reads like a narcissistic meltdown because you lost control of the one person in the family who finally saw through you. You didn't just ignore D's boundaries, you systematically dismantled them. You sent a therapist to his house without consent. That's not help. That's coercion with a medical professional as a prop. You're pissed that D doesn't fold under guilt anymore, so you're escalating like every emotionally abusive parent I've seen. The "you didn't earn anything" line was especially disgusting. He lost a parent. You lost custody of his empathy because you wouldn't stop selling access to him like it was a family timeshare. And for the love of God, stop calling it fairness. It's not fairness when you're taking from one to appease the other. You failed to parent L emotionally, and now you're trying to compensate by bleeding D dry. He's not rejecting family, he's escaping toxicity. You can't stand that he finally grew teeth. Comment 2. Your husband's checked out, huh? Can't blame him. Reading this, I'm exhausted for him. You're spiraling so hard you sent a damn therapist to your kid's doorstep, like a Jehovah's Witness with a business card. That's not normal, OP. That's desperation wrapped in entitlement. Also, you keep painting Al as this poor, wounded puppy, but you're doing him no favors. You've infantilized him for a decade. You keep saying he tried. Tried what? Exactly. To barge into someone else's life repeatedly. To whine about not getting access to someone else's inheritance. He's 18 and still being used as your emotional lever. You should be encouraging him to build his own life, not sniff around D's leftovers. D's not the golden child. He's just the one with a spine. You treat that like betrayal. And your husband? I'd bet money he's done trying to fix this because he knows deep down you created this rift. And you're still prying it open every time you speak. Comment 3. Jesus Christ. As someone who lost my dad at 17, I wanted to vomit reading this. The way you keep referring to D's inheritance as hand-me-downs or unearned is effing vile. That wasn't just a house and some consoles. That was a tether to his father. To call that stuff and talk about fairness like it's a divorce settlement is insane. Let me be real with you. L doesn't want a relationship. He wants access. To the gear, to the house, to the perks that came from your ex-husband's life. You framed his apology as heartfelt, but all he talked about was the gaming setup and what he could play. That's not rebuilding trust. That's looting a grave. And you stood there and made promises to one kid about giving away another kid's grief. For a birthday gift. Are you hearing yourself? I don't care if Reddit hurts your feelings. You needed to hear it. You didn't lose your son because of the divorce. You lost him because you turned every milestone of his pain into someone else's wish list. Update. I honestly thought that leaving a small box of L's things on his porch with a note and a controller he left behind years ago would be harmless, and maybe even start softening him. But no. He dropped the entire box back on my porch the next morning. He didn't even knock. He just left it at the edge of our driveway like he didn't want to step on our property. There was a printed letter taped to the top from some online template, saying that any further attempts to leave things at his home will be considered trespassing and harassment. This is my son, and he's talking to me like I'm a criminal. L was crushed seeing his note returned. He asked what he did wrong, and honestly, I had no answer except that D is refusing to see him as a human being. It's awful. L keeps asking if he should apologize again, or write something longer, or send D a voicemail. I told him no because clearly D has dug himself into this hole of resentment so deep he doesn't want a ladder out. Things spiraled even more when I tried something I thought was a reasonable next step, a family dinner. I texted D saying I wanted to talk, and wanted him to come over for one meal. He said no multiple times, so I told him his grandparents were coming. Only then did he agree. Yes, I stretched the truth. I needed him in the same room. I needed him to see L is not the villain he's created in his head. D arrived, and instantly tensed up when he saw L and my husband sitting at the table. He asked, "Where are Grandma and Grandpa?" And I said they couldn't make it. He immediately said he was leaving, but I asked him to sit for just 10 minutes. I wanted to explain everything without him hanging up halfway through like he does on calls. Halfway through the dinner, I brought up something I regret sharing because it blew everything up fast. I said it wasn't fair that everything his father left went exclusively to him, when L is also part of the family. I said families adjust things when situations change, marriages happen, and new kids enter the picture. D went still and said, "If this is about giving L something from Dad's house again, I'm done." I told him I had spoken to a lawyer. Not to take anything from him, just to ask if it's legally possible to adjust inheritance distributions in blended families when the initial will was made for a different family setup. He reacted like I tried to rob him. He asked, "Did you seriously try to undo my dad's will?" I said no. I asked a question. That's it. He said I had no right even asking. He then put an envelope on the table, his own lawyer's letter. A formal notice to cease all attempts to interfere with or modify the estate, and to cease any third-party communications regarding him. He warned that anything further would result in legal escalation. I've never felt so disrespected by my own child. Elle cried. Full-on breakdown. He apologized for everything again and begged Dee not to cut him out. Dee didn't even look at him. He only said, "I'm not your brother," then stood up to leave. My husband, who usually stays out of conflict, told Dee to calm down and think about how Elle was feeling. Dee said, "He's 18. Stop treating him like a toddler." Honestly, it felt like a slap to me, not Elle. I'm his mother. I know Elle's emotional maturity better than some kid who barely tolerated him growing up. After Dee walked out, my husband and Elle got into a fight too. Elle yelled that he's tired of being told he's too sensitive, and my husband said he's tired of being caught between all of us. He stormed out after Dee, but Dee had already driven away. That's when I realized something else has been happening. My husband has basically stopped being home. He comes in late at night and leaves before sunrise. He eats meals alone. I think he's avoiding me. He claims he's working extra shifts, but I know his schedule. He's not working more, he's hiding. And now the tension has spread to him and Elle too. They barely talk. And it gets worse. Apparently Dee has been telling people I'm mentally unstable and trying to latch onto his inheritance like a parasite. That's completely unfair. I only ever asked for fairness and unity. I never asked to take anything from him for myself. I've only ever advocated for Elle having some connection to his stepbrother's world. That's it. But now extended family is messaging me because Dee sent them a long, detailed timeline of every incident from childhood to paint himself as the victim. He even pulled out old screenshots, texts from years ago, and a rant he wrote when he was 13 about how we forced togetherness. Now everyone thinks I emotionally abused him. People who haven't spoken to me in years suddenly have opinions about my parenting. And before anyone says I should take accountability, let me say this clearly. Elle is still practically a child. 18 is nothing. He's been through more emotional difficulties than Dee ever has. He never had 2 households, 2 sets of everything, or a dad spoiling him with every new console. He never mocked Dee the way people are painting. He was insecure and lashed out. Sometimes that's normal. I swear people forget that kids who come from broken homes or blended families struggle in ways outsiders never understand. Reddit keeps calling him manipulative. He's not manipulative, he's overwhelmed and trying. Dee is the one freezing him out entirely, refusing even basic human decency. I feel like I'm losing everyone at once: Dee, my husband, Elle's trust, extended family. And now strangers online are telling me I'm some monster. I'm not. I'm a mother trying to keep my family from falling apart. I want Dee to come back. I want him to be part of this family again. I want him to stop acting like his stepbrother is contagious. But at this point, I don't even know how to fix any of it. Comments. Comment 1. You're not misunderstood. OP. You're manipulative and legally reckless. I'm a probate attorney, and let me make this crystal clear. Your son's inheritance is not a group asset. It wasn't built on your marriage. And there is no version of reality where your stepson is entitled to any share of Dee's estate just because you were married. Asking a lawyer to adjust the will after the fact isn't curiosity, it's a form of financial harassment. Your son responded with a cease and desist because you earned it. Also, you ambushed him at a fake family dinner, pushed emotional manipulation under the guise of unity, and then acted shocked when he left. That's not rebuilding a family. That's coercion, plain and simple. I don't care how many tearful monologues Elle gives, Dee owes you nothing. And he especially owes your husband's kid nothing. You are legally and morally in the wrong. Every step you take makes Dee's boundaries more justified. Stop digging. Comment 2. Holy SHT, OP. You really don't hear yourself, do you? You talk about fairness like it's a weapon. Fair isn't rewriting wills. Fair isn't promising your stepson someone else's inheritance as a effing birthday dream. Fair isn't lying to your son to get him to dinner just to stage a guilt fest. You want to talk about broken homes? You broke it. You ignored Dee's trauma. You downplayed his grief. You decided your new family was more important than honoring the memory of the one he lost. And now that Dee's standing up for himself, you're calling it disrespect? And let's talk about Elle. He's not a child. He's not innocent. He's 18 and still riding a narrative where his stepbrother is just being mean for no reason. That's your fault. You created a dynamic where he expects access, attention, and an apology. And when D rightfully tells you to F off, you twist it into victimhood. You're not losing your family because of Reddit. You're losing it because you keep trying to rewrite reality around your own guilt. Second story. Bill is in the military, and my husband stepped up for his boys and told my husband to limit time with my nephews because my girls are feeling left out. Hi. I had an issue yesterday with my husband, which I'm conflicted about, regarding whether I was in the wrong. My husband and I have 2 daughters, 6 and 8. My Sil and her family live a couple of blocks away from us. They have 2 boys, both 9 years old. Her husband is in the army, so he is away from home a lot. When he's away, the boys come to our house often. They're great boys, respectful and energetic. When they're here, my husband takes them to the park to play soccer. They always say they have a great time, and my Sil also thanks us for it. When they're not around, my husband takes our daughters to the park too. I often join them too, and they also look forward to it. However, when my husband takes the boys along, even though we encourage our girls to go along, they tell me they don't enjoy it. Basically, the boys get super competitive, and it's not fun the way it is when it's just them with my husband. I take them along by myself, but apparently it's not as much fun, haha. My husband can also only do some days of the week, and when their father's away, the boys come on those days. Yesterday, I asked my husband to talk to his sister and set some kind of limit to those days because our daughters like going to the park with him for soccer, and it's not the same with me or when they go with him and the boys. He looked taken aback and said that they're good kids. Their dad's away for long stretches, and they seem to have fun here. I said I never said they weren't good kids, just that our daughters felt like they were missing out. He said he'll encourage them more to come with them, and he'll make sure things don't get too competitive. I said we've gone through that before, and it's just not fun for them. He said telling his nephews this would be cruel and made it sound like I was in awe for suggesting it. So I wanted to ask AITA. Comments. Commenter 1. There has to be a happy medium to be found. Can you play with the boys at the park some days while your husband spends more time with the girls? Can your husband plan other activities that aren't soccer for everyone to do together? I agree he needs to prioritize the girls, but I don't think any group has to suffer to do so. OP. I'll try suggesting this. Thank you. I've tried with the girls, but they're not nearly as enthusiastic about it with me as with their dad. He makes it a lot more fun for them. The boys might be easier to keep happy, lol. Commenter 2. Info. Do you and Sil take your daughters to do fun activities like mini spa days or take them out for ice cream? If not, then it might be something to consider. I get it. Your daughters miss spending time with their dad when their cousins come over. But how often can the boys say that about their dad? They need some male influence, and it appears their uncle is all they have. I'll say nah. OP. Yes, I do take them out. Not really with my sister-in-law, I guess. But we all do go together out to eat sometimes. Commenter 3. NTA. But I understand why your husband feels bad about telling his nephews he won't spend as much time with them. I am very close with mine, and it would break my heart to disappoint them. I think the solution might be in finding another activity to do with all the kids. Let's say the boys are there twice a week. Maybe they go play soccer once, and the other day they do an activity that the girls and boys enjoy. Or one day he goes with the boys, and the next one you do something with the boys and he goes with the girls. Unless you are not close with them, or don't really have a bond. I think splitting up the time between both parents, so you both spend time with your nephews and your daughter might be a good solution. OP. Someone else suggested the same, and I like that approach. I, along with my Sil together, maybe could do these park sessions with the boys on days my husband is busy, so that the girls get their one-on-one soccer time with their dad. Commenter 4. Question. What does the split in time look like? And how much quality and separate time does your husband get with the boys versus his quality and separate time with his daughters? Let's say your husband takes the daughters 2 days a week, and then he takes the nephews 2 days a week, and then he has the nephews and the daughters 2 days a week, and the last day is all of you. In a case like this, it would feel like the nephews are prioritized more if they do take over playtime with the husband when the daughters are there. It's not clear how skewed the dynamic is. Edit to add. Would it help if you watch from afar to see the dynamics firsthand to understand how the husband is when it's just him and the 4 kids? What exactly does competitive mean? And does it change how the husband interacts with the kids? OP. So Tuesdays, Sundays, and sometimes Fridays are when he takes them for soccer. And I'm reading the comments, and some seem to suggest I'm jealous. It's not that. It's just I've seen how much my daughters look forward to those days when the boys don't come around when their father's here. They get all dressed in their kit and come back super happy. When their father's away, the boys come on these days, sometimes not Tuesdays, and the girls used to accompany them all. But they've just complained now it's not fun for them and only really look forward when it's just their dad and them. I've seen them all play. When he's playing with our daughters, their play is unstructured, and it's just them running around. With the boys, I've seen him try to keep it like that. But it just becomes a bit competitive, and my daughters start doing their own thing midway through. Commenter 5. NTA, if it's so bad that even his daughters see it, then he is seriously neglecting his kids. He either needs to find something different that all the kids will enjoy together or discipline the boys for being too competitive and make sure his own children feel involved. I'm guessing there's an element of azism in here too, in that he was probably hoping for a son to do all the sporty things with and ended up with 2 girls. Which is ridiculous because my daughter has way more in common with her dad than our son does. OP. My daughters do like doing sporty things. They really look forward to going to the park with him when it's just them. And I really have tried to do the same things he does with them at the park. But I honestly don't know where I'm going wrong. And my husband also put up a basketball hoop in our backyard. And the girls are really into shooting hoops with him too. And they haven't told him about their issue with playing with the boys directly. My oldest just said she doesn't want to. And my husband just kind of said that's okay. But when he and the boys had left, I asked her and her sister. And they said they don't like playing with the boys. They steal the ball, play too fast, etc. Commenter 6. Not to jump to conclusions whatsoever, but is there any chance your husband potentially wanted sons instead of daughters? Nonetheless, NTA, he needs to lock in and spend some undivided damn time with his daughters. OP. All we cared about when we were having them was that they be healthy. My husband loves my daughters and dotes on them. I know I made the post and maybe didn't provide enough background, but both my daughters are daddy's girls, and honestly it's part of the reason I felt the need to ask him, because they're not getting the time with him that I know they enjoy. Update. Since today was a holiday, he was going to let his sister know that he'd be taking the kids to the park earlier today, so the boys should come earlier. I asked my older daughter separately whether she wanted to go. She said no, even though she'd been hyped for it in the morning. I told my husband this. While she was cuddling with him, he asked her why she didn't want to come, but she was avoiding giving a reason. Eventually my husband asked if it was because she didn't like playing soccer anymore. She said no, she did. Then he brought up whether it was because of the cousins, and she shyly admitted that it was but didn't give the details that she'd given me about the competitive nature and everything. My husband hadn't texted his sister yet, so he told the girls the boys can't join right now, and if they still wanted to go to the park, we could all go. Both my daughters suddenly really wanted to go and went to get dressed. So we're at the park now, and the girls are having fun with him. I think he's going to take the boys later in the evening. I'm not sure. But my daughter telling him seems to have made more of an impact than me saying it did. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.